What's going on, my peeps? It's time for another episode of an Up and In It show. This is episode 135, The Power of Focus. And I want to talk today a little bit how we get sidetracked and how powerful it is to be in a focused state of mind and to practice and use this thing like a muscle, and how sometimes we can focus on the wrong things. And in order to get what we want out of life, we just have to have some major, not maybe some, a lot of focus and stay focused to get through and to make shit happen. This is a Potty Mouth podcast, by the way. I'm broadcasting to you guys live from my F-350 pickup truck on my way back home from work from Sunnyside, Los Angeles to Sunnyside, San Diego County. And yeah, that's the background noise. I've got a long commute, so I figured, well, instead of sitting here just thinking of thoughts and stuff to tell you guys, why don't I just tell you guys? So that's where we're at. Welcome to another edition of Up and In. I'm your host, Adrian Babishoff, and if you're new here, welcome as well. And if you're wondering what this show is about, it's entirely dedicated to improving quality of life for both people and planet, exploring alternatives to the daily grind through liberation and independence, moving you from surviving to thriving and living life raw. So let's get into it. Focusing. There's so many things that I could see that for myself, I'll talk out of personal experience. I want you guys to get what you want out of life, and I've gotten a lot out of what I want, and I'm continuing to do things, and it all has to do with focus and not being sidetracked. And I see so many things in our lifestyle designs, in our current lifestyle designs here, especially in the America. There's all kinds of distractions. There's all kinds of things to shoot you off to the side. As I say on this show a lot, one of the biggest realizations I've learned for myself is that some of the biggest hurdles and things that I have, sometimes my greatest enemy is myself. So I have a lot of distractions of things of why I suck, how I'm never going to get anywhere, who am I, I'm just one person, and everybody else is doing stuff a certain way, maybe I should do it follow suit. Why always be the black sheep? Always the black sheep, that's me. But I try new stuff and I stay focused, and a lot of things that I've done by staying focused and not following the norm have actually come to fruition. I'll share some examples with you guys so you guys know I'm not just talking out of my ass and getting this out of Sunset Magazine or something, or, I'm not some motivational speaker here. Basically, I've defied the laws of gardening where they say rule number one is never compact your soil, ever. And I went the opposite. I compacted my soil. In fact, not only did I not keep my garden soil loose to grow vegetables, by the way, and herbs and stuff like that, I actually made a contraption that actually presses it. I use almost all my weight, and I really make a hard-ass soil block. And this is a big, giant, about a 5-gallon cube, a 1 by 1 foot cube. And I packed the crap out of it. I toyed around with different soils and stuff, and I thought, you know what, who knows if this is even going to work. I went with my gut instinct, though, and guess what? It worked. So I don't have to be distracted and listen to people telling me that things can't happen. This is not all of us, never compact your soils. Depends what type of soil you have. I'll just finish off with this one of why would I do something like that? Because I get more retention of moisture in my soil because it's more compacted. The soil doesn't crumble as easy and fall apart when you're doing container gardening. Also, there's more nutrients because there's more soil. There's more nutrients in there for the plants to eat up. So therefore, it works around in a lot of different ways. And if I just sat and never questioned anything and got out of focus of using my imagination, I would have never figured this out. So that's a pretty big one. I mean, to me, I have never heard, and I've searched far and wide, the only way I can, or places I've seen people compacting soil was making little tiny soil blocks for seeds. For those of you who don't know what a soil block is, you should look it up. It's pretty awesome. You don't need to use any plastic. You have a steel little machine that has little tiny 2 by 2 inch, and they come in different sizes, like little compartments. You compact a bunch of a certain make of soil in there, and you press it, and it spits out these little tiny perfect cubes of just soil with a little dimple on top, and you plant your food, or you plant your seeds and you grow your vegetables. So to stay focused, I think that what excites the hell out of me is that so many people have different innovations of things and like ideas, and I think that they get limited by majority rules, and they never expand out and try stuff. And sure, stuff sometimes screws up, it doesn't quite work. Like for instance with my soil, I could try a different type and it wouldn't work this way. I had to keep trying and trying. Lucky for me, the very first time I did it, it worked. I didn't have to do multiple configurations. I looked though, and if certain people didn't follow what I'm doing, they probably wouldn't have the same results. So always keep trying and always stay focused to get what you want, to get ahead, and that's where all new things come from, right? People focusing and doing new shit. So the mind, moving on the next subject matter, the mind is a downloadable tool. It's a downloading tool, rather. And I think that in order for us to stay focused on certain things, we get distracted, and there's only so much, like a computer. From my understanding, that the mind has been designed, the computer was designed after the mind, the way the mind thinks and all that. I think even AI and everything, that are putting thoughts and stuff. But the difference between artificial intelligence, AI, and computers is that they can store all these things. They don't have to do other tasks, so they're not distracted, right? That's the whole gimmick of AI and robots. So we're not robots and we're not AI. Some of us, I think, may fall under the category of a robot. Some people under AI too. There's a lot of people who know a lot of shit. It's like, how the hell could you keep all that stuff inside your mental hard drive? So I guess what I'd like to say to stay focused is, a lot of us simple minds like me, ape minds like me, I try to stay away from things like movies and TikTok is these apps. TikTok's a crazy one. I start looking at these videos and I just start going through. I have to for my business because I need to promote my podcast and my garden business and stuff. But I'll find myself sitting there for an hour later and there's all this junk on there and I can't stop watching because it's so perfect. It's so short, I don't watch every single one of them, but it captures my attention and it feels like I literally took a suction cup off my face. And this is a great distraction. I think alcohol and smoking weed and anything that alters your state of thinking when you're working on something can possibly stop your focus. It can divert your focus on this stuff. You start to get, I'm tired now. I'm not really feeling it. I don't feel motivated, whatever. So in order to stay focused, I would say to do everything all natural, and also to inspire yourself, I think, is one of my biggest ones as of lately. And talking to a few people, and they're like, it's so awesome that I got inspired by this thing and stuff like that. I'm like, who inspires you? And I look and I'm like, there's not really much at all. I mean, I do get inspired by people, but for the most part, I'm so into what I'm doing. I've got these innovations, this podcast, basically the way I run my life. I'm so focused on doing things different or finding out what works and what doesn't that I really don't have time for anything else. And my garden is the same thing. As you guys have heard, I hang my garden, everything hangs off the ground. It doesn't touch the soil. I don't have to worry about ants and gophers and snails and slugs and rats and mice and stuff like most other people, but I had to innovate. So I'm so busy doing things. I'm not sure if I'm wrong, but it seems like I just inspire myself all the time. Not to sound arrogant, it's just I don't really need to look up to somebody else or anything like that. Of course, when I come up with an idea or concept, I'll Google the shit out of it or YouTube it to see if somebody else is doing something. And I can't find it, then I got to create it myself. So I just go back to the drawing board and I stay focused though. So the mind's a downloadable tool. I think the older and older we get, the more shit experiences we've had in our lives and things, good, bad, and all that. We have all these things where we start to forget. And I think that's what happens with some of us older people is we have so many things that we've been through and done that we can't remember all of them. And that we find remedies and we know about all these different things, but we can't recall all of them because there's millions and millions of them. So I think that there's a sort of way for us to focus, as I try to do, as don't focus on the insignificant things. So great minds, I think, not an ape like me again, but I do notice that I get focused. I don't do anything else. I notice I don't really watch TV. I don't watch movies. I don't really do much. I use Instagram, TikTok, Facebook every once in a while to kind of learn what other people are doing, what they're not doing, what's working, how these apps work. But other than that, I pretty much stay focused on exactly what it is I'm doing from start to finish. And I think there's a lot of people, of great people who've came before us, probably like Albert Einstein and stuff like that, sitting at the drawing board, not giving a shit that his hairstyle, he looks like a fucking troll baby, And Elon Musk, I think is another one right now. A lot of these people, they just start focusing on something from start to finish, or maybe multiple things, but that's all they got going on in their lives. So a lot of us simple people like myself wonder, how the hell could these people have done so much? They don't have a life like we do. I watched the Joe Rogan Experience podcast with Elon Musk, and I think Joe Rogan asked him, said, it'd be wonderful to be like you. And he's like, no, you don't, because it never stops. It doesn't shut off. It just keeps going and going and going. And even though I haven't really created anything great like Elon Musk, I understand completely. Your brain just never stops. It just keeps going. And if you can harness that and focus on the same thing and not get scatterbrained, splatter coded, you can just streamline that in. I think that all of us can get some wonderful things done. But I think that's probably the key to how people like Mozart, Beethoven, and musicians and artists, painters, they just painted and painted and painted, and they just kept going. And whatever these great minds did, they just kept going and going through experience and trial and error, and just stayed on the mark, never swayed off. And that's how they got to where they are and created wonderful things. And I think that all of us can learn the mechanics of these things. It's kind of my philosophy of watching things, like learning how the mechanics of this whole crazy COVID system, the government or businesses, corporations, like how are they functioning, and how can I mimic something like that for the greater good of myself? I started studying a lot about money earlier on in my life, and then that's where I came up with the concept to run your life like a business, meaning that all your food and stuff, like you write down your supply, like in a business, you would see, say you had a paper mill or something, you're like, well, how many pounds of paper do we have? How many boxes are we going to need? What's our projection of what's our rent and everything going to cost for this place? What's our working capital? And I looked at that in my life. I was like, that's very interesting that if a business doesn't have a business plan or something, they can plan on failing. And I looked at life this way, and that's how I came up with this concept is run your life like a business too. Find out how much money you need. If you're saving for something, you need to know how much you need to save for to get what you want. So run your life like a business. We're focusing we're focusing just directly on a certain project. So our regular minds, I think a lot of us aren't hardwired that way. I think that we could. I think there's a lot of people I've met in my life that didn't seem like they had much going on upstairs. Like they weren't the smartest people, And some of them have said some really, really smart shit. And, about little things. I'll give you guys for instance, was a friend of mine who's a hillbilly, basically, a mountain boy, and not very educated, book savvy, mathematics savvy, just the guy knows how to shoot guns, fix cars and stuff like that, but I kept telling him, I was like, man, sometimes I just want to get out of the big city and just move out in the country, produce my own power and everything. But I love the ocean. I really love the ocean. He was like, well, one good thing about the ocean, there's always wind. You can always do wind power. And I was like, what a good observation. So just simple stuff like that. You never know. And we all got stuff. But the one thing I noticed was that this individual was into horse racing. He loved betting. He told me what the turf was made out of, the history of it, all this information where I was like, wow, it's basically like a short essay. And when I looked at that, I went, this guy's not dumb. He's just not focusing because he doesn't have interest in certain things like mathematics or business or stuff like that. He sure as hell loves gambling, and he knows everything about when it rains, how slick the grass gets, or is it an advantage or disadvantage. And so I think a lot of people are just not focusing on the right things. They're focusing on what they're told to do, this is what you should do. And I think if everybody broke away and started focusing on what they love to do, that they would be like these great minds I speak of that are just really, really good, because they would just focus, they'd zero in on it, if that makes sense. So I think that's something that all of us individuals should consider. Are we not focusing on things and getting ahead in life and getting what we want because we're aiming at the wrong things? So yes, a lot of us aren't wired that way, I think, though, regular minds. And I think that we should consider staying away from such things, or limit ourselves from social media and stuff like that, because we put so much. I've noticed when people wanted me to teach them how to grow food or something, or learn something that I was doing, and I'd start talking to them, and it was like they could only absorb so much before they crack. And I think that a lot of us adding certain things like TV, sitcoms, and a bunch of, dogs fart and stuff like that. It's good to laugh. It's good to have comedy in your life. But I think if you really want to learn something, you should probably consider limiting a lot of these things that are distractions, as we just first opened up, and start using more of that time and that capacity. You can imagine it's like a teacup and everybody only has an ounce to fill up every day, to go fill up this giant bottle. So only fill up that ounce a day, dump it in the bottle and leave it alone. Next day, fill up another ounce and just keep putting one foot in front of the other. Keep exploring your imagination, stay motivated, most of all, stay focused, and just do what you can in your means. So I speak a lot of my thoughts as of lately has been of focusing on the wrong things. For instance, I'll give you guys on this COVID thing. I see a lot of people focusing on a lot of things that may happen. And there's a lot of doomsdayers out there. There's a lot of, what do they call this stuff? It sounds like it could be true, I can't think of the damn word. I hate when this happens. Conspiracy theories. There we go. Thank you, brain. See, I told you, monkey-ass fucking ape brain. But yeah, there's a lot of conspiracy theories out there, and a lot of different things that the news is telling you, and that people are telling you, and then they're trying to think in their own head, well, what is really going on? What's not going on? And I look at this, nobody knows what's going on with this whole COVID deal. And to me, it's a waste of time. We have to just let it play out. Whatever powers that be, whether this is fake or real or what, who fucking knows? But the point that I look at is instead of focusing on all that stuff and trying to figure out the puzzle, which is probably what the people in power want you to do, keep you distracted, instead of focusing on other things, you're focusing on the wrong things. Nobody knows what's happening. Why don't we start focusing on the right things, in my opinion? Saving seeds, growing our own food. Maybe we should get out of big cities. Maybe we should keep an eye on business. Like one thing I look at, not a lot of people are talking about, is the stock market's like really up there. Stock market's doing really, really good. But we're supposedly heading towards a recession. I'm in the construction industry, and I'm driving right now from Sunnyside, Los Angeles to Sunnyside, San Diego. And on my commute here, there's tons of housing tracts going up. There's commercial buildings going up, and there's commercial buildings all over Los Angeles that are vacant, saying for rent. Why are these people building all this stuff? And what is the point of this? What do you know that we don't know? If we're heading towards a great recession, as some economists are saying, these are pretty big people out there. You can look at them. Then why are these people still investing in this stuff? So I look at this thing. The best thing we can do is start focusing on our health, focusing on our mindset, focusing on focusing, and a whole lot of other shit. Stop focusing on the wrong things. So which brings me to my next is to find out what you want. That's probably one of my craziest experiments, is asking people, what do you want? What do you want out of life? And they're just like, what? Some are like, I want to be rich, I want to be filthy rich, whatever. And then it's like, well, okay. So yeah, I guess you can hear that one a lot. Question you'd ask that person is, well, what are you doing to get there? And then they'd look at this style, I work really hard, and do you see yourself getting there? Like, how much money do you make? What's your plan? There's no focus. Yet you want to be rich, but you have no idea of how to get there. So you're focusing on the wrong things. So in order to turn this into a positive, what I would suggest is that you ask yourself is, what are the obstacles? So again, I'm going to give you guys an example of my life. I want a residual income so I can take care of my special needs daughter. So what are my obstacles? Well, I've got a special needs kid. I may have her for the rest of my life. I can't continue my construction business possibly if something happens to her mother, who helps me take care of her while I go to work on certain days of the week. And it's not working for, well, basically I don't want to give you guys my personal information, but it's not working, and I need to take my daughter full time. Otherwise, none of us are ever going to get anywhere like this. So my obstacle is that I've got a special needs daughter in my life, so I have to up my game. So what am I doing? I make really good money working in my construction business. I save a lot. I run my life like a business. I've got my overhead super down low. So unlike most people, I don't have very many of those obstacles in my way where I'm tied to a mortgage or tied to a vehicle. Like I own everything that I have. I'm not in debt really. So I've taken care of a lot of financial obstacles, and then it's just left for me. During the day when I get home, one of my obstacles is working construction, roofing construction mostly. I'm tired as hell, and it's very difficult to get up and start writing show notes for podcasts and stuff like that, and working on my garden business. So I basically take every free moment that I have and I educate myself. And every free moment that I'm not educating myself, I work on my garden. I work on my business. I work on my podcast and show notes and research and and being a single father, meal prepping. And I just basically continuously look, what are my obstacles? Identify them basically is what I'm trying to do if I get the shit out of my mouth. Identify what the obstacles are and then figure out what you can do about them. Come up with solutions. So that's probably one of the very first things I would look at no matter what anybody else is doing, whether you wanted to be rich or something like that. You'd have to come up with a plan and know what your obstacles are. Moving forward, sequence of events is a very big one. Never heard anybody talk about it this way in life, but I thought that it was really, really helpful. Sequence of events. Now we got rid of our obstacles, and first of all, we know what we want. Here's what I want. What are my obstacles? Now, what's the sequence of events that needs to happen to get me there? So, for instance, I would look at if you're in high debt, and that's keeping you from having time to work on your dream to get your thing going here. You've got to figure out knock that out. That's an obstacle. There's a sequence of events of maybe things that need to happen before you can get there. So let's start working a lot harder. Let's stop, instead of working 18 hours, 20 hours a day, which we're killing ourselves. There's some sequence of events that need to happen, like getting rid of your debt or lowering your overhead. How can I lower my overhead? So it has nothing to do with exactly your dream, but it's the sequence of events that need to be done in order for you to get your dream, if that makes any sense. It kind of correlates in there with obstacles, but I think it's its own animal. Sequence of events you can buy some tools or things that makes your life easier so you got more time, or the tools to do what you want. The education and things like that. Like maybe you should learn, a perfect example is maybe you should take a computer class before you start blogging because you don't know how to store all the files and things like that. It takes you like an entire day, a monkey like me, which it does because I didn't take a computer class. I'm not using the information, the advice that I'm telling you. I just went and figured it out by myself. But yeah, sequence of events. Like take a computer class and that should streamline everything a lot easier for you. So moving forward, are you afraid of failures? And I think this is a big one. Are you really scared of the big giant word that means so much but has such little effect that people don't realize? No. Are you afraid of no? No doesn't mean shit. You know how many times I've been told no? You just keep knocking. You keep trying. And I think you need to stay focused on what you want, because for instance, I've heard people say that they tried to do something. They asked people to, I don't know, they wanted to walk dogs, and they went to 5 people and asked them, hey, I'll walk your dog for like $5 for an hour every day or something, or a half hour. And the people were like, nope. They said, I quit, because after 5 people, I just got discouraged. I was like, dude, you only asked 5 people. Now, if you asked 50 people and none of them wanted to accept your, employ you, I'd say, oh, well, maybe you do got a problem, but don't just stop at just 5. Don't be scared of failure. I think that that's a lot of stuff I talk about on the show continuously, because I used to be that way. Now I try everything. I stay focused. I do a lot. I don't give a shit what people think of me. I don't give a shit how I appear. I'm focused on what it is that I want, and I'm zeroed in on it. So I think a lot of us are very, very scared of being told no, that it's going to get your feelings down and ruin your gusto, your motivation. I think it's just a part of life. Everything always says no. Look what this COVID-19 fucking is doing right now. It's telling all of us no. Restaurant owners and people that, no, you got to shut down. You're not going to make money. Forcefully. I think that even more profound than not being scared of that, of being no and failures, is, are you afraid of success? And the way you could play with this one, I've done it. We're gonna get a little Twilight Zone on you guys. Is I want you guys to sit down, close your eyes, and say, and ask yourself a question: what would someone need in order to believe, to feel that they won't be successful? I think a lot of ideas of like success, like one that is for me is I keep trying to draw into reality asking the universe, give me some, let me win the lottery, you know, very small. That's an experiment I've heard a lot of people doing where they keep envisioning using creative visualizations, and I keep creative visualizing that I'm going to win some money one of these days, or something's going to happen. I'll be financially independent. And what would I do with that money? But the fear of that success is that my family would treat me different. My friends would treat me different. Life would change. My children maybe wouldn't respect, if I made a lot of money, they didn't have to try. They were just given everything. They wouldn't know how to build stuff themselves. There's all these things that come with success. I think a lot of people want fame and notoriety. I personally would never want fame and notoriety, because you wouldn't be able to walk down the street like a normal person. People would be following you, chasing you, trying to rip your clothes off, you know, trying to get a sample of you. And I think it would be horrible to be a famous person, a movie star, or a musician or something, like, you know, and horrific. Like going to bed. I was just driving up in Los Angeles doing a fancy job doing a big job out there. And it was right where all the rich people live. And you can see all these gates and stuff, and, you know, wrought iron gates with the little spear tips and things like that. And there's been stories of people saying that, like movie stars, that like people would break in their house and they'd put their clothes on. They'd come home, you know, and find someone sleeping in their bed. They're like, what the fuck? Can you imagine going to bed wondering if there's like people trying to climb over your fence to get a picture of you, or just like they're obsessed with you? So yeah, there's a lot of things I think that come with success that a lot of us don't think about. The one thing you can do, I think, is a good experiment. We're going to get a little Twilight Zone-y, is ask yourself, what would one need in order to experience success, or to not be successful? Both of them, do them interchangeable. What would one need in order to experience not experiencing success? And I can tell you some of mine, when I've done this little exercise on myself, was like, well, you don't deserve it. I was like, what? Oh, what's another reason? Well, you have to earn it. It can't just be, you know, you can't just win the lottery, or you can't just be, you know, come into some money. And it was like, wow, all these little extra things. So there's nobody else telling me this stuff. This is the dialogue going on in my own head. So I think it's very wise if you guys play this little game, no matter what it is that you're looking to do, whether you're afraid of success or afraid of failure. Do these little experiments, jot down what comes up out of your mind, and deal with these things in your own way. Know that they're there. These are your obstacles. These are the sequence of events and things that are most likely stopping you. And these are the things that break your focus. And I think if you spend some time with them and deal with them, and notice to yourself and accept in yourself, look, this isn't me. This is just some thoughts that I have going on. These are my beliefs. You can move into a whole different realm of thinking and of focus to actually get what you want and get ahead in life and be happy. Just be happy, man. So that's the show, guys. You can find this on Spotify. It's Up and In It. You can find it on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and wherever you can find podcasts, Apple iTunes, and all that. And you guys can, if you guys have any questions or something, there's down in the show notes on what do you call it? Down in the show notes, there's always my email address. You guys can send me some stuff that you're interested in. If you have any comments or anything like that, send me an email, and maybe I'll make a show about your comment. So this is Adrian signing off. I will be here as much as possible, trying to spread a message of positivity for anybody who will accept it. I will try as hard as I can to post as much as I can. And I always say, guys, go out there and have yourself a near-life experience. Don't lose your muchness. Carry on the fire. Human up. Live it, love it, own it, and bone it, my friends.